Hmm. Well, for some reason, the thing that's coming up for me is the videos, the pictures, the recent recordings of the takeover of the Capitol building here in the U.S. and the organizations that created that. You know, the people who got together and planned it and created it, and then they did this thing. You know, this big violence and takeover. And I have one question for the group: are you really having fun? Is that really fun to do that?
Hmm.
Or is it scary, and is it painful, and is it an expression of your anger and your rage and your pain that you're trying to relieve yourself from? Which is it, you know? Yeah. I don't really think it's that much fun. I think it's really scary, and people are desperate to relieve themselves of some stress they're caught up in. And I wish for them that they could find peace within themselves. And then they could have a peaceful effect on the government, on the country, on this
Hmm.
earth. Until then, I think they're only contributing to the pain, you know, the suffering, the the loss of freedom, really. Mm-hmm.
And there seems to be some joy in destroying something, hating someone else, being in a community of people of the same belief, feeling strong together.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that some of them would tell you, hey, I'm having fun doing this.
Yeah. Marshall Rosenberg would always tell a story about he had an uncle that would bring groceries to his grandmother. And when he would bring these groceries, he always had a smile on his face. Beautiful smile, the love, the joy of contributing to my grandmother, to his grandmother's life and to the family, you know, by bringing these groceries that she couldn't carry. Big smile. He said, and then there was these other boys that would, after school, when Marshall would try to get home, he'd run up this street and he'd try to get away from these boys that had a lot of anger going on, and they would catch him and they'd hit him, and they too had a smile. They enjoyed the hitting.
Mhm,
They enjoyed the violence.
mhm.
Power over. It gave them kind of a sense of power and safety somehow. He said, "There's just," and that was it. There's two kinds of joy. One comes from serving life, and the other
Mhm.
comes from this kind of violent, power over, destructive, you know, false sort of empowerment,
Mhm.
reduction of fear.
Yeah, that's what I remember uh, Marsha saying that you can only enjoy violence if you've got a particular set of thinking. If you really think and believe the other one is bad, is your enemy, so it needs this particular way of thinking about someone else, making someone else
Mm,
an enemy or something that you can
yeah.
really enjoy doing harm to them.
In a way, it's like they're trying to make a contribution to the
Yeah.
planet
Yes.
by getting rid of these unconscious people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean that's the basic story which is told over and over and over again
Yeah. Yeah.
that you become the good guy if you fight the
Yeah.
bad guys.
Yeah. Yes, I'm the hero when I do
I'm
that.
the hero.
Yeah.
That's this kind of
Yeah.
hero's journey. Find the bad guys.
Yes.
Find the one who is responsible for all the mess and all the things I don't like.
Yes. And they have to be the other. It's the other person, the different one. Yeah, there's a wonderful little book by Dr. Seuss. It's called the Butter Battle Book.
The Butter Battle Book.
Butter Battle Book. Yes, exactly. And it's all about these two tribes of people who live right beside each other, and they on one side of the fence, this wall actually, on one side of the wall, everybody butters their bread on the top, from the top side down. And on the other side of the wall, everybody butters their bread from the bottom side up.
Okay.
And the ones who see the butter side up people, they think how immoral they are, how evil they are. They're bad, they're unconscious, they're stupid. All the butter up people. And then the other side, they think the opposite, that anybody who butters their bread from the top side up is really ridiculous, is really an enemy, is to be threatened, is scary, is the enemy. And we need to destroy him quickly, because if we don't, he'll take over and wipe us out. So we're actually protecting our whole civilization by how we treat others. How do we treat the other? What kind of consciousness do we bring to this encounter with the other? Yeah. So that thinking in a way that creates separation is part of this thinking. There's us and there's them. But there's other kind of less thinking involved with this openness to our unity, our oneness, our we're all on the same planet and dealing with the same issue, this issue of violence and the other. And how can we come together in a way that unites us, gets us thinking that we're part of the same energy field, part of the same evolutionary process, to evolve beyond this other enemy concept into this united vision of co-creative, joyful possibilities.
I mean, there's two difficult things for me. First of all, how do I find this kind of, how do I take myself seriously in the way of, I want to be some kind of third side, or kind of not buy into this either or thinking. So I want to be of help and support in kind of what you said, like how it's possible to unite or see what is uniting them. And the other thing that I find myself othering these guys, saying, hey, they are really the bad guys, because they are polarizing so much. They are so convinced that they are right. They are so so I make them the others.
It's easy to do. It's easy to do.
And this is what I really find hard to find. So how do you do this? Or what's your take on that, to find a different way of connecting to that?
Mm-hmm. I know that there's a shift I can feel at a certain point when I'm talking with somebody, engaging them in something, conversation. There's a kind of an energetic sharing that can happen. That suddenly I realize I've crossed the fence. I've come back to the center, and now I can feel the heart of the other person. Now I can feel their fear. Now I can feel their hurt. Now I can feel how desperately important these ideas are to them, these thoughts, how scared they are, and how much they want security, and how much they want to serve life, really.
Mm-hmm.
And when I feel the shift, it's like there's a coherence that starts to develop between us. It's very subtle at first, but yes. It happened the other day. I was leading a forum group, and I believe he was from Iran. An Iranian man came, and he was very, very angry, and he was wanted to be in the middle of the forum to do some work on his stuff. And he was talking about how important it was for him not to wear one of those masks, and how important it was his religion told him to never ever allow anyone to tell you what to do. There was a part of his religion was autonomy, and he was speaking of it. And he was really angry, and I was trying to connect with him, and I did. I could feel just how sacred it is, this thing of choice for him, and I could feel it. It's just like, I believe at one point it's like he started to cry. I was really understanding him finally. I was probably one of the few people that would understand when he'd say, we need to, take our position of being these masks. We don't wear the mask if we don't want to. We're holding our autonomy with more respect. So I started to hear him, and I listened. I could feel his pain around it, and how sacred and important it was for him to be true to his own autonomous choice. And I could feel the difference would be like, suddenly I could feel how much pain he was in. People were trying to take his choice away from him. Mm-hmm. How scary that was for him. So I'm just reflecting back and hearing him energetically, the fear that's going on, the hurt, the pain, everything that's going on for him. At the end, he said he just felt wonderful. He felt really heard and understood and gotten and respected. And now I could feel all that energy start to open up to me. He started to respect me. He started to honor me. He started to feel me. He could feel my energy field. He could feel me connecting with him. And now I have some power with him. Mm-hmm. Now that I've heard him accurately, heard the pain in his heart about wanting his religion to be honored, the importance of his autonomy to be respected and taken in. So now I've heard that well enough for him to want to respect me now. Mm. Now if I say something to him, it's more likely he'll take it in. Mm. And I asked him, what do you think it's like for the other side? Well, how would it be to put yourself in their shoes? And he did it. He started to do that. He started to talk about how it might be for the other side. Mm. He started to be able to get a little glimpse of how it was for the people that he saw as the butter side down people. Mm. How was it for the other side? And he started to talk about it a little bit. And I could feel that he's developing a little bit of insight on how to empathize with, quote, the enemy. And it was beautiful. I could feel the transformation happening. And it was just wasn't a huge thing. It wasn't, he changed his religion suddenly, but he could feel him start to be more open. Mm-hmm. And so that was the beginning of my relationship with this person, which now can have some power with him, instead of all these people who are always trying to tell him intellectually how wrong and bad he is for his position. So that's the beginning of this transformation that we all have to go through, I think. This shifting from being so sure I'm right to feeling some caring and connection coming from other people.
So what I get from your example is as well that it needs some context where this is possible. I mean, sometimes I would like to really get to know someone, or kind of and of course to have some space which feels safe for me as well. So I must feel safe asking these questions. showing my interest and not being laughed at or not being. So I need some safety as well if I go into this kind of trying to understand someone.
I think you'll find a whole bunch of safety in your intention. If you know in your heart of hearts, your intention is to really open up and hear this being, this human being that's desperate to be heard. If you know that's your intention, you'll come in with a lot of power. You'll come in with a lot of confidence. You'll come in with so much trust that there'll be no doubt that this person can trust you.
So hearing this, then it gets to the second point I had before, so that I kind of have to be really open. I have to do something with my own enemy images. So if I kind of tell these stories about people who do it either or, I mean, as I said, whenever I see an either or, I'm the good guy because I try to go beyond the either or. I want to be the third side. And I mean, doing this, I somehow.
What makes you want to be the good guy? You know, what's the drive? For me, most of the time it's because I want to go to heaven. I want to be seen as a conscious being by my peers. I want to be respected.
And I want to be true to my own values. I mean, that's what I'm trying to live for. That's what I'm trying to bring into life, to really not to be some kind of peaceful force or kind of bring people together and kind of and kind of so I want to be a living example of kind of doing it and feeling it and doing it in life and thereby contributing as well.
I just noticed for myself, if I'm really honest with myself, a lot of times my motives for being a peacemaker are more about being loved than they are about loving. You know? Yeah, a lot of times, if I'm honest with myself, my motivations for being the good guy is an ego reason. It is not really a sincere desire for connection, for understanding to happen between us. I've just noticed it, so that's great. I've seen it, at least I'm noticing this little aspect of myself I call the ego. I'm noticing it's engaged and it's taking me for a ride if I don't stop it, if I don't interrupt it, or take a step back from it.
I mean, that's what Marshall has reminded us again and again, that in the end, everybody, or we're all doing things because we need something, or we want to do some, or kind of it starts with us, not with. So, and I mean, I heard you saying like, I don't know exactly what it was, but quoting Marshall, like me first, me only.
Yeah.
So that he was really stressing for people he was really stressing that nonviolent communication starts with being honest with myself, that it's first of all, it's about me, about taking me seriously. And so, yeah. So how does this go together with calling this ego? Sounds a little bit like that's not really, I mean, that's not very enlightened to kind of just follow your ego. So how does this go together with Marshall's very positive way of looking at this and saying, yeah, that's what we do. That's because we're human. We all look for our needs first. And it's good to do it. So how do you bring this together?
Well, there's a couple things come up. One is I want to be transparent about whatever my needs are. Yeah. So if I have a need for recognition, I'd like to say it up front. Hey, I'm having this conversation with you because I want recognition. Yeah. So that's part of it, and that's part of what starts to build trust is authentic communication and connection. And it's my need, me first. I'm doing it for my own selfish needs, you could say. So that's the one part.
But basically you don't judge it as being selfish. I mean, you added like selfish need, but in the end you say, hey, that's the way it is. I start with my own need, and it's good to be honest about it and be transparent about it. And then for me it kind of loses this kind of selfish quality. If I'm really open with it, it's not, yeah. So it's not really, but because selfish has this really bad connotation of, hey, I'm only looking for myself and I don't take you into account. But what you said is that this kind of transparency is the start for building trust. So it's not only about me. If I share this with you, if I make this the start of our conversation, my honesty, my sharing that this is my starting point, I'm starting this conversation because I would like to get some recognition, then this is something you're doing not only for you, you do it for us.
So you're saying about that there's a kind of connection between both needs, the individuals and the other person that you're engaging with. There's the bringing those two needs together, my needs and your needs, and to see they don't have to be in conflict at all. Even just some basic awareness, things like needs never conflict. If to the degree people understand that, it's a lot easier to find solutions to problems. If I know that my needs can't conflict with other people's basic needs. Just some very basic stuff around NVC can be helpful. And also that like the difference between observations and evaluations can start to change the temperature in an interaction in a group setting. You know, Krishnamurti said that the most difficult task in human intelligence is to be able to observe without judging. So maybe people could learn something about that. That's part of what the Center for Trust is going to be doing, is teaching basic NVC differentiations, they're called. Like Marshall would say, one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist. So you see it in the media now, all over the place. There's so much, the rhetoric, they call it, has been amped up. It's all very much a either or, right, wrong, good, bad, violence or not setting for these conversations to take place. And how they add to how they grow to the degree that people know how to grow trust and how to grow separation and fear is important for knowing how to feed the flames of trust or how to feed the flames of fear. And what do we want to contribute to? That's the big question. You know, people talk about, well, what's the origins of all this hatred and all this fear mongering and violence and taking over the capital and all that stuff. Well, it comes out of our culture. It's a direct expression of the fruit of our culture. This is the fruit of our culture. Because every TV show, every movie you watch always has a sex object, a beautiful woman. It has a bad guy, you know, it has a good guy. And every movie you see just about the good guy hurts or kills the bad guy at the quote climax of the movie. The climax means they get the sex object, the woman, at the climax of the movie. And this is the reward that every young man wants. That's why he has the super duper shoot 'em up, you know, video games to have this rush of thrill, the exhilaration of the violence, of the killing. So it comes out of that. So the fruits of that are, you know, the capital being stormed by a bunch of people very caught up in the hunger to feel that excitement and to feel that glory, the glory of conquering. Mm-hmm. How it's all tied together with even our sexuality is related. Because I remember the first book I ever read that had anything to do with sexuality, the name of it was The Conqueror. The Conqueror was the name of the book. So it's a fruit of our culture again. And I think it's going to take a lot more than a little bit of political restructuring to get at the roots of this violence and to expose it to the light of day. Gandhi once said, for every 1,000 people knocking on the for every 1,000 people who are chopping at the leaves of violence, there's only a few chopping at the roots. There's only just a couple people who even understand what the roots are of the violence and how to chop at those, how to change those. Which is how we think and how we relate day to day with ourselves and others. It's part of these roots of violence.